Hello everyone, welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Been a while since I've gotten to do one of these, and feels pretty good getting back into the saddle, getting the hang of this all again. It's been a lot of fun, so tiring. So many adjustments having to be made, and rearranging life by a little bit. Everybody says that, the more kids you have, the easier it gets, and haven't really found that to be the case. I mean, sure, we're more experienced. We know more about what we want to do, what we need to do. But also, every kid's a little bit different, so that can make things tricky. And here I am, not actually talking about what today's episode is about. Today, we are wrapping up the first edition Pathfinder Slayer by finally, after, I think we're a month behind now, talking about the overall general strategy and tactics that we're going with this build. And most of you have probably already figured all that out, since we're going with a very ranged focus build, an intensely ranged focus build. And really, with the Slayer, like so many other classes we've covered, there's just so much customization to them. A ranged attacking build is not the only option that you're left with. You can easily go with a switch hitter, being able to go from range to melee fighting, or just focus purely on melee. Or if you want to be less about combat, you're still going to have a whole lot of combat options, but you have a lot of other selections that you can make to really open up a lot of skills and utility to make yourself much more viable outside of combat. You still won't be bad at it, just because, again, this is a class built for combat, but you can bring a lot to the table and really make yourself viable in a wide variety of situations. I mean, really, pairing up, say, a Slayer with an Oracle, with a War Priest, and a Vigilante, you have a lot of what you might need to be covered already taken care of with that selection of 4 right there. The only thing you might be missing is a hefty amount of arcane magic, but shoot, throw in a bard with a use magic device, and you can really start cranking out a lot of power through a lot of different situations. Just an incredible amount of utility. But before we get into going over the exact details of your overall strategy and tactics, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. But now let's actually talk about what we're doing with this build. So, we are really focusing on, again, being a ranged attacker, but we do have some options to help ourselves out, because you'll have noticed that we cranked up our strength score really high. That's because using a composite longbow that allows you to add in your strength modifier to damage will boost your damage output overall. And there's really not a whole lot of an upper limit on the strength rating that a composite longbow can have. So rather than pumping up your dexterity score to help with the accuracy of the ranged attacks, because you have a full attack bonus progression, having a good to okay dexterity score is perfectly viable, whereas boosting your strength will make those shots really count and really hit hard. And it stacks nicely with feats like Deadly Aim, which also help to boost your damage, and is a feat that progresses and scales over time. Top that off with the fact that you get the bow enchanted, get it a solid enhancement bonus, all the way up to a +5 even. That's another +5 to your ability to hit and to damage. And that's before you even factor in feats or class features that could be stacking on all kinds of damage. You have things like a studied target kicking in, where dealing sneak attack damage to the target allows you to apply the studied target bonuses. And those bonuses really start to add up very, very fast. And then, of course, again, you also have sneak attack, as was mentioned. And that's another increase to your damage modifier. So hopping onto that kind of a mindset and focusing on ranged attacking and picking up feats like feats and Slayer talents that really help to boost your abilities, such as taking the Ranger combat style, specifically the archery combat style, getting you rapid shot, precise shot, and then, of course, point blank master, to fire in melee without provoking an attack of opportunity will make you so very, very viable. Now, you can still have power attack for if you do have to fight in melee, taking a greatsword or another two-handed weapon to get a strength and a half bonus to make sure you're getting a good damage applied in the fight will just be massively useful. And really, this build wouldn't take too much to build into a switch hitter kind of styled thing if you wanted to go that route. And then, of course, we have other options like Deadly Range, picking up as a Slayer talent at level 6. This will let you add in another 10 feet to making ranged sneak attacks for a total of about 40 feet. Now, that's not huge, but for getting the sneak attack damage, the closer your enemies get, and they are eventually going to want to get close in most instances, the more damage they're going to take. It just increases, especially if you have something like point blank shot, which will give you another +1 to hit and +1 to damage if they're inside of 30 feet. Absolutely incredible to have all of these disparate modifiers coming in together to really make you an especially lethal archer. You'll be able to put up tons of arrows in flight, all of them hitting like just absolute Mack trucks, just slamming into targets over and over again. You're really going to do a lot to put people down. But you're still bringing in some utility with this build when you take trap finding at level 4. You are a stealthy character with a good perception score, and getting to add 1/2 your Slayer level to the perception to your perception checks for finding traps is absolutely phenomenal, especially if your party lacks a rogue or anybody else that can do trap finding. And as Captain Crank had pointed out, not only does trap finding allow you to add your bonus to finding traps, and being able to disable traps, but you're able to disable magic traps as well, which definitely becomes important. Probably, I'd say by 8th level, but especially by 10th or 12th level, you're going to see a lot more magic traps starting to crop up, and those ones will be especially lethal. So it's worthwhile to have that just for the utility, if nothing else. And speaking of level 12, the talents that you're picking up around there, slow reactions and evasion, will do metric crap ton for you in the offense and defense department when it comes to combat. Slow reactions means that any enemy damaged by your sneak attack can't make attacks of opportunity for 1 round, which is huge. That could allow any of your allies, any players or NPCs that need to disengage from combat and can't do so safely. This opens up a window of opportunity for them to do that. And even if they don't need to escape, reducing an opponent's ability to put out damage is still useful. And then evasion. Evasion is also great to have as well. Picking it up at level 12 is late to get, but not too terribly late that it's not worth it. It's going to be worth it every step of the way, honestly. Especially since with this build, we're never really going to leave the medium armor range. You could pick up a talent or the heavy armor proficiency feat to get into heavy armor, but that would be better if you were more of a switch hitter build or fully melee focused. Since you're going to be comfortable attacking at long range, mid range, or even in close range using your bow, you're probably going to be okay not having heavy armor as much. You'll still be capable in melee if it comes to it, and that's what you really need to do. But overall, you're going to be okay not having to worry about that. Gosh, and there's just so much more, like level 5. Level 5, we're picking up the feat Shadow Shroud, for example. Now, it does require that you have Knowledge Planes, 5 ranks at least, which knowledge skills are useful, and Knowledge Planes, I would say, is still pretty useful. But this allows you to use Shadow to conceal yourself and roll Stealth as a swift action, even in areas of bright light. So it's essentially hide in plain sight as just a feat, which is absolutely incredible. It's great that you get to have it, and it doesn't require that you be on a plane that shares a border with the plane of shadow, which other similar abilities typically require you to do. So again, all the way around, really, really great there. And then, of course, level 11, we pick up clustered shots, which on a full attack with a ranged weapon, you total the damage from all of your attacks before applying any damage reduction. So if for whatever reason you don't have a weapon that is able to bypass a target's damage reduction, which normally subtracts damage from every single attack, this instead counts all of that damage as if it were coming from one attack. So if your opponent has something staggering like a damage reduction of 20, which would be appalling, you could still make your full array of attacks. Let's say you have 4, we just make 4 attacks. Now, between all of those attacks, you're still taking 20 damage off of it, but some of that damage is going to be getting through unless you've rolled abysmally low. But even then, I don't think that's very likely, because by the time you have 4 attacks that you're able to make use of using this, you also have many shot or rapid shot, putting extra arrows and therefore extra attacks in the air to hit, and then you're using deadly aim, the fact that you have a high strength score. You just have a lot of flat modifiers that don't have any rolling component to them, any variability that boosts your average damage all the way around. So clustered shots will be very, very valuable. And from there, it just comes down to what kinds of equipment you have and what kinds of allies you have to work with everything. So, say again, if you have a composite longbow and you're getting it enchanted, obviously we talked about the impervious enchantment and seeking, but getting the speed enhancement thrown on it isn't a bad idea either, because that's another attack that you're throwing out there at your highest base attack bonus and allowing you to apply all the other modifiers to that attack. So again, it's just a massive damage boost. Really helps with your DPS all the way around. And then if you are so lucky as to pick up the ideal armor option that we threw out there, Celestial Armor, which lets you fly on command and counts as +3 chainmail and light armor to boot. And that's massively huge. It gives you an incredible AC bonus, allows you to stack on a huge amount of your dex bonus as part of your defense, with only a -2 penalty to your -2 armor class penalty on certain skill checks. I mean, all the way around, that's absolutely incredible. That's not going to be something you're likely to buy, but it will still be worth the get if you can grab it as soon as possible. Also, given the number of arrows you're also going to be able to fire out there, I'm not the kind of DM that typically makes a great deal of effort of tracking the target or the player's arrow count. But if they're fully focused on being an archer and they're using many shot every single round, because why wouldn't they? And they're making all kinds of attacks of opportunity, at a certain point I'm going to go, okay, you probably should have run out of arrows by now, because you've been making full attacks, you've been using up every single attack of opportunity. Every round, you're sitting at about, let's just say for argument's sake, that's about 9 attacks altogether every single round. 9 attacks, 9 arrows for 3 rounds. That's 27 arrows. That's a pretty significant amount. So you'll want the efficient quiver to make sure that you have plenty on hand. Because again, that holds 60 arrow-shaped objects. Now, a few of those might be wands, depending on what exactly you need to get done. It doesn't hurt to be the magic item repository every now and then, especially if it helps out the rest of your party. But still, something to bear in mind, being such a heavily archery-focused build. And then, from there, the overall tactics just kind of depend on the campaign from there and what the rest of the party composition is, because you're not contributing a whole lot magically. That's going to be left up to your allies, so whatever kind of buffs or boosts that they can offer you and the rest of the party is really going to be very, very dependent. It just depends, and the ways you mesh together are just going to, just depend on those different builds, and also specifically the kind of campaign you're playing in, because if you're on a seagoing campaign, then suddenly skills like climb or swim become much, much more valuable, because, well, easy way to die is to drown in a massive body of water, and nobody wants to do that, not so early on in the campaign, so those will become skills that are worth a few more ranks early on. But what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Do you feel like I kind of pulled everything together here nicely, or have I done an absolutely crap job at putting it all together? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Hit those like or dislike buttons, and what other strategies or tactics might you recommend, or what changes overall do you think seem to be the most fun for this build? Certainly, you have all the different archetypes that are available to the Slayer that absolutely make the class that much more customizable, that much more interesting and unique. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and we'll engage in discussion. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.